Hello everyone. Just let people get on here for a minute. It is 10 a.m. on, what is today? The 17th, February 17th. There's a couple people. Hello. So today I'm going to be interviewing Sweet Mountain Crafts. So I'm just going to wait until she pops on. There she is. Let's see. Anyway, I am Hannah, and yeah, let's see. Live, I think. Yes. There she is.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Okay. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
All right. Pretty decent. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, so I am Hannah, the girl who wears wool socks on Instagram and with windblown fibers. And I have been working with Karista for a couple years now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But right now, I am mostly doing online sales and making socks. Here's a sock. Ta-da! This
That
is
looks
actually,
amazing.
a color that Krista just dyed for me. I don't think I came up with a name yet, but I really love how it self-stripes. It's not actually, it self-pools. All right, anyway, Krista, why don't you introduce yourself and your business?
Yes. So my name's Karista Lowe, and my business is Sweet Mountain Crafts, and I am an artisan yarn dyer and fiber dyer. So I do all kinds of playing with color.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And we actually have something in common as we both live in Wyoming. So
Yes. Yay,
hello to
Wyoming.
other Wyomingites.
Yes.
Different towns, but you know, Wyoming is Wyoming. We're just spread out a little.
Yes.
Okay. What do you sell? We're going to go through some questions, so go ahead.
Yes. I work on all kinds of things. As I said, I'm primarily an artisan dyer, so I work on dyeing different fibers, predominantly yarn because I'm a knitter and crocheter first, probably as a crafter. But I also sell mohair cinch cord. I have some of that here, and I can explain a little bit more about what that is in a minute. I also dye mohair cinch cord, and then I also dye fiber for spinners. So I actually have some of my fiber here, a fiber braid. This is Polworth. And then I sew as well. So I do sell some hand sewn project bags or notions pouches. So here is a little hexagon notions pouch that is something that I make and sell quite a bit of in my shop. So I do all kinds of things, and it's more a matter of limiting myself rather than how much I do, because I enjoy all kinds of stuff.
Right. My next question was some interesting facts about your business. I remember you telling me before about how you came up with your name. So why don't we start with that?
Okay, so my name is kind of unique. Sweet Mountain Crafts. I'm from the mountains. I've lived all over the US, but I was born in Montana and now live in Wyoming. And so I've resided in the mountains for the majority of my life. But actually my name came from the fact that my last name is Lowe. So my husband is Lowe. And I thought it'd be fun to come up with a name like Sweet and Low. And so for coming up with email names or whatever, an online name, an online presence, Sweet and Low kind of was where I started. But because I wanted to do something that was very much mountain specific, since I love the mountains and have lived in the mountains so much of my life, I ended up taking the Sweet Mountain from that kind of, and yeah, added that name to it. So I live in Cody, Wyoming, and Heart Mountain is a prominent feature here in Cody. So my logo is actually Heart Mountain, and you can see the image, and I don't have it right here with me either. I was going to look for a tag, but I don't have one right here.
Well, you can go and visit her Instagram. And
yes, it is on my Instagram. So the outline of the mountain there is Heart Mountain, and then I put the heart on the mountain. But Sweet Mountain is just my tag that I came up with years ago for myself. So Sweet Mountain Mama actually was what I was for a while. So yeah.
How many years have you been interested in fiber arts?
Oh, fiber arts. Let's see. I learned to crochet when I was 7. So over 30 years of crocheting. I am a self-taught knitter, and I've been knitting probably for 20 years. I just, within the last couple years, learned to spin and started doing some weaving. So yes, 30 years of, at least 30 years of fiber arts for me.
Wow.
Yes.
Cool. When did you become interested in dyeing?
I think dyeing is something that maybe everyone kind of plays around with at various points if you're in fiber arts, because the idea of adding color to natural yarns is always fun. But I started playing with it probably about 3 years ago, actually. I started my business 2 years ago and had just started kind of playing around with it in my own kitchen, you know, typical like food coloring Kool-Aid on natural fibers to start.
I've done that.
Yep, it's fun. And I tell people they should. Everyone should play with it because it is so much fun to do. And yeah, so that's kind of how I started.
Okay, my next question was, why did you start your business?
Sure.
And here's a actual question that one of my followers asked. When did you realize you can actually make something of your business? And before we go, Mom pulled out a label. So here's,
there's Heart
I
Mountain.
guess it might be switched, right? Yep.
But yep, that's it. And actually, if you're on the Powell side of Heart Mountain, it looks more like that. If you're on the Cody side, it would be the reverse.
There you go.
So depending on which side of the valley you're in. Let's see. The first question that you had asked was, sorry, go back again. What was the first part of that question?
Why did you start your business, or when did you realize you can make something of your business?
Sure. So the why for my business. I am a homeschool mom. I have 4 children, and my kids are starting to graduate and move on with life. So my 2 oldest have graduated, and I have one at college in Bozeman, Montana, and another son that just recently moved to Phoenix, Arizona for work. And then I have 2 more still at home. But I needed something to do that was going to be something I could do while they were still at home and still needing my attention, but something that I could grow into something more, so that as they were starting to leave home, I would have something for myself. And so then how I decided that it could be a business rather than just me playing with yarn and having fun for my own hobby. My husband actually was my huge encouragement for me that way, that he said, well, why don't you try and sell what you're doing and turn it into a business, a little side business. And so that's where I just started on Etsy. I decided to go ahead and come up with my logo and my name and all those things, and started selling on Etsy, and things started taking off really quickly. And then knowing that this is something that I wanted it to be bigger than just, I've had Etsy businesses in the past that were just kind of a side thing that I do while I was being a mom and homeschooling. But I knew that I wanted this one to be a little bit more than that. So I took it to the next step of visiting with you guys down in Casper and traveling around to yarn shops and starting to share my product with some yarn shops around Wyoming and Montana, which helped kind of expand my brand a little bit that way. And then also started branching out online, set up my own website and stuff like that. So yeah.
Your website is like way better than mine.
Well, thank you. It always needs work. It could always be better. So
let's see. Now I'm going into some questions for independent yarn, like for the dyer side. This is a question that someone just asked. What what is one mistake you see newcomers to dyeing make that you would correct them on?
I think that probably the thing that is the area that I would encourage people in most is don't worry if you don't have all the answers in the beginning. Don't like second guess what you're doing. Just jump in and do it. It's so dyeing yarn it's kind of an art form and unto itself. And the thing is that when we work in whatever media, whatever art we are doing, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things that you do wrong or feel like don't turn out the way that you desire them to. But you know what? Just keep going. Just keep trying. I've had yarns that came out rather ugly, and then I just over dye. And the over dye final result ends up being beautiful. Or I've had yarns that as I'm putting the color on the yarn, I think, oh, this isn't going to be that nice. And then by the time I get done, I get it washed, I get it dried, and I twist it up, and it's beautiful. And unexpectedly so sometimes. Or sometimes, you know, everyone has their own color palette that they're drawn to. And so I tend to be a cool color person. Like I tend to find that those are the colors I'm more drawn to. But then I kind of push myself to venture into other things. I did a dye inspired by a podcast, Rose Opal Knits, and their colors were definitely more warm tones. They wanted more mustard yellow and orange and pinks, and that's not the normal direction for me, but I did it, and it came out with a beautiful yarn. So just being willing to jump in and take those risks and realize that you're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's okay. You're going to learn from those.
All right, here's a couple of questions that kind of go together. How do you come up with your inspiration, or what inspires you the most? And how do you come up with color combos?
All right, so I would say my inspiration is primarily drawn from nature. I love being in the outdoors. I love, like I said, I love the mountains. So a lot of things are local to me, but then also I love birds, I love flowers. So I will find that lots of times I am inspired by those colors. I love to look at beautiful photos and pull colors from those pictures. But then a lot of times it's just what I feel like goes well together. So here, I'm going to show, this is one of my current color series. So this is what I call Flos et Avis, and that in Latin is flowers and birds. And so each one of these colors is inspired by a flower or a bird. So this one, for example, I call it Superb, and it is named after the superb starling, which has a beautiful, that kind of like green and blue feather that you can see. There's certain chickens that even have that, or other birds that you see with that. But it's just a beautiful color. And so when I knew I wanted to go this direction with this color, and then I started looking at bird photos for inspiration. So yeah, that's a huge part. As far as other inspiration, like I said, even just finding other people in the fiber arts community. So I've done a couple colorways based off of podcasters and their loves, and trying to encourage just the idea of taking other people's interests and putting it into my yarn as well. Or with my Cinch Cord. Oh, go ahead.
I think that might be a good time to show off some of my Sweet Mountain socks.
It's so fun. Yes.
More socks and more socks.
Which are all inspired by you. Like those are all colors that you chose, actually, which is fun.
Just some of these. I will say that most of these socks are on Mountain Meadow, which is another Wyoming company. And they are my go-to. Like, if these are all in the laundry, I'm like, oh man, now I have to choose some other color. But I tend to cycle through yours because they slightly full, or felt, not felt. They fluff. And so they're just like the coziest things ever. So but yes, I've loved working with you and choosing colors. Go ahead.
I have
One of my
favorite pairs. One of my favorite pairs is the I didn't keep back all the colors that you had me dye for you. I didn't keep back one of every one of them, but I did keep back, like I did dye enough to keep some for myself too. And that's also one of my favorite pairs. But I did notice that they ended up in the wash recently. And that's like, oh no, like in the washing machine wash, not just hand wash. But I think they're okay. I don't think I shrunk them too badly.
Yes. I wash I wash everything in the washing machine and then on a cold, gentle cycle. And the water helps fluff it up, obviously, but I don't think it does any harm. In fact, a lot of hand knit socks tend to grow a bit while you're wearing them. And then throwing them in the washing machine pulls them back together and makes them snuggly for the next
usually with those I have typically, because there's a non-superwash, so I usually just hand wash them, but like I say, they just went through the wash recently, and anyway, I think they turned out okay. All
right, you were about to tell us about some of your cinch cord, I think.
Yes, so let me explain what cinch cord is, because I'm sure that there's viewers on here that probably don't know what cinch cord is. So this is actually a mohair product. So it comes from the Angora goat, and it is an 8-ply cord. And this cord is used for making horse tack. So horse tack weavers will take this cord and weave cinches for underneath the belly of the horse when you put a saddle on, or breast collars, which go in the front of the horse's chest. Or sometimes they'll use it for halters or other things. It can be used to weave guitar straps and purse straps and dog collars and all kinds of different things. But it's a fun cord because it's a non-superwash, so it takes the color very similar to a non-superwash wool, like if I was doing a yarn.
Just softer.
Yeah, it's this one in particular tends to be quite soft, the tones in it, but I can get more vibrancy. I just have to add a little more heat in order to make those colors really pop, I guess. But it's definitely not like superwash yarn just takes the color in such a vibrant, like startling way where you can put those specks of color and they just are individual specks, where non-superwash just doesn't have that tendency, which is the beauty in itself. But anyway, so yeah, with the horse tack, I find myself, the colors that I choose tend to be more earthy, not quite as wild, I guess, as what I find myself doing on the yarn, but it's still just a lot of fun to do.
Right. So and you sell these to people who like to make their own tack.
Yes.
I guess it's kind of like, almost like a macrame.
Yeah, in a way. And excuse me, I'm going to grab a drink of water really quick.
That's all right. I guess I can pull up my tea here. All right. The next question I think is, we've talked about this before, but where do you source your yarn?
Excuse me.
I know you source some yarns, obviously, in the States.
Yes.
So why don't we talk about that?
So, excuse me.
You're fine.
I have a tickle that we'll see. Hopefully I can talk through this for you.
Okay.
So yes, I like to source yarn in the States when I can. Primarily, I mean, through COVID, I think it was a good wake-up call as to how easy it is to get our yarn, and certainly suppliers everywhere were struggling with getting their shipments in if they were overseas. So I started utilizing more and more American-made when and where I could. So again, the yarn that I've worked with you has been all Wyoming raised, Wyoming processed, Wyoming milled yarns, which is, oh yes, you're right. I did end up, we've done some scree sock.
This is the Wyoming.
Yes. Excuse me.
And this
Sorry.
is her scree.
And I have some scree here too as a sock set.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also American made. So this is not Wyoming specific, but it's still made in the United States. And it's a beautiful sock weight yarn. I really enjoy working with my scree sock and find that a lot of people really like it because it's a 4-ply. And so it's very, very durable as a sock yarn. It also has nylon in it. But yes, I've enjoyed working with the Wyoming raised yarns, and I have, as an example here, I have a couple. This is from the same color series that I showed that other yarn from, but this is on my Alpine, so this is a DK weight, and it's a 100% Targhee, which I love working with the Targhee because it's fun to know that that's a breed that was established here in Wyoming. And
cool.
so, yeah, so it's kind of a neat, I mean, it's all Wyoming. You couldn't get much more Wyoming than having a sheep breed that was created here in Wyoming. The yarn is, or the sheep are raised here in Wyoming. The yarn is then processed in Buffalo, Wyoming at Mountain Meadows. And then I get it and add color here in Wyoming. So it's fun to have that element of, but I enjoy working with, I have a number of my products, and I try to make sure in my shop online that I always state where the products are from. So I do work with Peruvian, I work with British produced yarns, but when I can, I work with American. So
yeah,
yes.
That's way cool. Okay, let's see. What other questions? When you are dyeing yarn, do you have an idea of which type of project would suit the yarn best? This is a question that someone asked me to ask.
Sure. Yes, I think I do because I am quite an avid knitter and crocheter myself. So I lots of times, actually to the point that it can be really hard, when I'm making yarns and I'm excited about these new colors and I want to sit down and work with them almost immediately. But obviously I don't have time to do that. I have to keep a business running. So I don't have time to just sit and knit as soon as I get things. So that's where it's fun to send you yarn because it gets knit on your sock machine so quickly that we get to see it really fast. But I would say that I do a lot of tonals or semi-tonals for sweaters. I enjoy the look of that where it still has a handmade, very unique look, but it's not super, super dramatic. And yet I love working, this sock yarn, this one's a little bit more toned down as far as some of my sock yarns. A lot of times I include speckles and stuff. But I love doing a little bit more crazy and all over colors, the variegated, the speckles for sock yarns. And then I call them sock yarns and I make sock sets for my shop where I have the coordinating mini that goes with it. But I find that I use those for shawls, I use them for scarves, hats, all kinds of things. So, but my more wild things are probably my accessories. My more wild colors are accessories, and then my more subtle are my sweaters and larger projects.
I think while we're on this subject, I want to show off some of the different types of dyes you have done for me.
Sure.
Actually, before we start, here's the dye that she introduced when we had the shop. This little set is a gradient where
I can show a sock.
You have a sock. So it has contrasting heels and toes, but each one of these is a gradient. So the sock, both socks will be dark on one end and lighter on the other. So I do have one of these.
I do. It's a different colorway. I'm putting it on a sock blocker for you. It's a different colorway, but it's from that same idea. And so this one is my sky clouds. And so you can see here I use the mini for the contrast. And then the color, it's lighter down here and then it gets deeper as it goes. And then I didn't use, because each of those individuals are 50 grams and I don't use a full 50 grams for my foot. So what was left over then, I put into a shorty sock for my daughter.
Oh,
And
that's
she got more of the deep tone color
yeah.
as you went up
Yeah.
it. But yes, those are very fun to dye. And I love the end result because it has like a speckle almost look to it, but it's different. And these are actually cake dyed is how I do that. So I put the yarn into a cake and then I submerge it in the dye.
So we had a question from someone, Cindy. Do you just guess where you add dye? And that's kind of what when you add dye, that's kind of what we're talking about. Last time I requested a color. This is actually the last color in my color of the month year that I did with Krista. I asked her this time to do, when she dyes on the skein, to do 90% of it navy and 10% of it leave just the natural. And you can see that when you're working on socks, I have a 64. It uses almost two, you can go around 2 times. Just a minute. Am I back? Okay.
Yes.
You can go around the sock almost 2 times. Not quite, but almost. And that's what makes the color move just slightly around. So most of these dyes are very intentional. Can I show the yarn too? Here's it in a cake. Let me grab the skein. I do have skeins right here. Here's it in a skein. And I do have these for sale. You can message me if you want. All about the math. A little bit about the math. So you can see that there was just a little bit of natural and most of it was navy. And I chose navy this time because most of my clothes are navy and you don't have to match the socks, but it's kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah, I tend to pull socks from my sock drawer that are matched. So yeah, lots of times. And to the point that I'm like, man, I need to dye that color because I don't have it in my closet and I've got clothes that are this color, so I need to match, right?
Yeah. This was a color that you did. This is more of a variegated, but when you dye on a yarn, if there's any swatches where it covers the entire section of the thing, it will pool when you make it into socks. So you can see the pooling in here. You've also done, let's see, this was a very popular pair that I made for quite a few people. This is a self-striping that she's done. So she also has done some of the self-striping.
Yeah, the self-striping it's so much fun, but it is labor intensive.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed doing it, but yes, it does take a lot of extra work.
I do have some of these available if you want to see some. You can buy them from me. Okay.
Yes.
And then these I like to call candy cane pooling. This is when the skein mirrors each other. So both ends would be the same color and both middles would be the same color. And that layers the color one on top of the other when you're going around. So you can get like this candy cane striping. So when you're in the yarn shop next time and you're looking at a skein of yarn, see where the dye lands, because that will give you a really good idea about what it'll do when you work it into socks.
Yes, and something like this. So this one that I brought as my example today, that this is kind of an all-over dye. So you can see as I travel up that the colors are repeated in the skein itself, which means that it would give more of a very heavily variegated looking sock, rather than the striping like you just showed, the candy cane striping.
It'll look more like this.
Yes.
But it'll probably be a little bit more variegated. Like I don't have any samples on me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun to, so when I'm putting the colors on, sometimes I have a very specific plan in mind, especially if it's a color that I'm repeating. So if it's a color that I have as a pre-order, let's say in my shop, and someone wants to order that pre-order, I'm going to create something that's close to, it won't always be exact. From one dye pot, as a small batch dyer, from one dye pot to the next, it's very rare that you're going to have exact colors. That's why it's so important with your knitting sweaters to alternate skeins, because they're never going to be exact. There's just no way I can control that in the style of dyeing that I do. But if I am looking for something to be very similar, then I will record in my recipe, I record in my notes how I laid the skein out, what it was like in the pan, how much water there is in the pan. All those things play a part in trying to replicate. Yeah, it's a lot of following recipes, which is really funny because as a cook, I tend to be the type of person that just throws in a dash of this, a dash of that. I don't always measure really great. I don't follow the recipe exactly. So it's kind of funny that in my dyeing, I have to be so precise and follow it a lot more closely than what I do when I bake or cook. But it's fun. It's fun. And because I am an artisan yarn dyer, I do consider that if an independent yarn dyer, because you're getting to have, it's your yarn. You get, as the customer, no one else is going to have exactly the same. It's different than going to the big box stores and buying the same color that everyone else has, which there are occasions to have that. But when it comes to custom dyed or artisan dyed, it's fun to have something that's uniquely yours. So.
Yes. All right, we're about to time. Does anyone have any questions while we're on the live? I did have someone ask about, are you going to be doing any shows, or how can they get in touch with you to buy yarn?
Sure. So at this point, I don't have any shows scheduled right now. This year's rather busy for me, so I don't have anything at the moment, but not to say that come fall there may be a couple opportunities. We'll see how my summer goes. But at the moment, everything that I have available is available on my website at sweetmountaincrafts.com. So that's just my name, Sweet Mountain Crafts, that you see on my Instagram.com. And you can find the yarns that I've shown today. I have some of those in stock, and then I have other things in stock as well. Some are pre-orders where you purchase and then you wait for me to dye it up, but some are ready to ship right now. And then certainly the yarns that I've dyed for you, Hannah, through Windblown Fiber, all of those yarns at this point, all of those yarns are exclusively available through your guys' website. I don't carry any of those in mine.
If it's not on the website yet, you can just message me and say, hey, I really liked that.
So
you can also see a lot of the finished socks and colors that Karista had done on my Instagram page, because I posted a lot of those pictures. Just putting that out there.
Yes.
If you want to see that.
And then I do have some yarns. I need to replenish some of my stockists, but at this point in time, I do have yarns available at Cowgirl Yarn in Laramie, at Grand Loop Yarn and Fiber in Cody. And I think that's all right now. Like I say, I've had yarn up at Sticks and Bozeman, but taking a pause there for a little bit. So anyway, yeah, so you can find my yarn in a few places for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing chatting with me today.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the invite.
We did it. It was a lot of fun. Maybe we can do it again in a couple months or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Sure.
But it was a lot of fun being able to talk to you and to introduce you to a lot of other people.
Yes, thank you, Hannah.
I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well. We'll talk later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.